Will Hurd is a congressman from Texas's 23rd district. Now, Will Hurd is an incredibly interesting individual. Will Hurd was class president at Texas A&M. He went into the CIA, recruited by none other than Bob Gates, the former defense secretary, who has served under 8 presidents of different parties. But after 10 years of doing Jack Bauer stuff in the Middle East, he quit the CIA to run for Congress. And the people there were devastated because they saw in him this once-in-a-generation leader, somebody who was capable of leading the CIA. Will Hurd just announced a couple of weeks ago that he is going to retire from Congress after 3 terms. The good news is that there are a handful of Will Hurds still in Washington. People who are not ideological, people who are not bomb throwers, people who are not there to get on cable news, people who are not there to score points for some tribe or some abstract political theory, but people who are there to work. People who are there to talk with their constituents, take what their constituents tell them, and apply it in Washington in a reasonable way, understanding that politics and governing is the art of the possible. Does anybody care to venture a guess at what your typical turnout is in a congressional primary in the spring of an election year? You're talking 8 to 14% typically. Now, who are the 8 to 14% of voters who turn out to vote in a primary? Do you think that by and large they are the pragmatic, moderate, open-minded, thoroughly fair individuals who are just looking for the most capable, competent person to represent them in Washington? No. It is your uncle who forwards the crazy email chains, the neighbor who posts that weird shit on Facebook. These are the individuals who are the most galvanized, the people who are the most mobilized, the most motivated, the people who are not going to skip a beat, that they're going to turn out and make sure that their imprint is felt on the electorate. And you know what? God bless them, because that's their right. But why don't the rest of us vote? Why do the rest of us feel as though we have the right to bitch and complain about Congress being dysfunctional when we're not actively participating and working to make it more functional? We all have this collective instinct to believe that Donald Trump materialized out of thin air and that this is just a one-off and that when Trump leaves, we're going to return to normal. Woo, do I have some bad news for you. If you want to believe that Donald Trump is an abnormality, that this is all, as Jeff Flake used to say, just a fever, that the body will eventually return to its normal temperature, I would suggest to you very respectfully, as I did to the senator from Arizona, the dearly departed Jeff Flake, this ain't a fever. It is spreading. It is contagious. Donald Trump is not the cause of our national crisis right now. He is the consequence of it. This was building and cresting for a very long period of time before Donald Trump ever came down that gilded escalator on Fifth Avenue. And what Donald Trump recognized, what Donald Trump tapped into, what Donald Trump was so prescient in identifying, was the degree to which most Americans had given up on the political system. I'm telling you as candidly as I possibly can that we do not send people to Washington with the capacity to govern. We just don't. Nobody wants to blame themselves, but it's your fault. It's my fault. You know why? Because we send idiots to Washington. And then they go to Washington. And what happens once they're in Washington? They never leave. You can't get rid of them. It is nearly impossible to defeat an incumbent in a safe congressional district once they have a foothold in Washington, because the powers of incumbency are so phenomenal. The money, the name ID, the ability you have to misuse government resources basically whenever you want and never get held accountable for it. But there are some genuinely good members of Congress, people who reasonable minds on the left and the right could come together, study them, and say, you know what, I would like them to represent me. That is a good public servant. That's somebody who's honest, who's fair, who's diligent, who's thorough, who thinks through the votes they take. Regardless if I disagree with some of those votes, or maybe even a lot of those votes, that's the kind of person who we need in Washington.